Chapter 1: Shadows and Paranoia.
Kai had always had a good memory for faces, maybe even too good. So it wasn't a coincidence that the same man kept popping up in the most random places in his daily life. And not just once or twice, he'd been noticing this stranger for the past 3 months. First, at the library. The man would sit 3 tables behind him, pretending to read a book he clearly wasn't paying attention to. Then, at the cafe where Kai worked, he'd order an espresso and stay there for 2 hours, messing with his phone. But Kai could feel his eyes on him, like an invisible spotlight. What disturbed him most were the little details. The man knew exactly where Kai sat in the library, always at the window table in the 3rd row. He knew what time Kai left work. He knew which bus Kai took back to campus.
Maybe I'm just being paranoid.
He muttered to Seong, a classmate, while discreetly showing him a blurry photo he'd snapped. Seong frowned, studying the tall man with dark clothes and sunglasses, a walking cliché straight out of a thriller movie.
Dude, that's kind of creepy. You should talk to someone.
Talk about what?
That some guy drinks coffee at the same place I do? Kai sighed, putting his phone away. It's not like he's doing anything. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. But he was. Kai just couldn't quite put his finger on what. It was the way the man always managed to find the perfect angle to watch him without being obvious. The way he'd vanish the exact moment Kai tried to get closer. The little things only someone who was really paying attention would notice, like how Kai always chose the same coffee machine, or that he had a habit of chewing on his pen cap when he was focused.
Chapter 2: The Cat and Mouse Game.
After that, Kai started testing his suspicions. Nearly 2 weeks of trying, and the guy always seemed 1 step ahead. Kai tried everything. Changed his route to the university, picked different times for lunch, even pretended he was heading to the library, but went to the computer lab instead. And him? Always there. It didn't matter how random the change was. Didn't matter if Kai made a last-minute decision to take a different path. It was like the guy had a built-in GPS or supernatural powers. Had to be.
He was at the lab today.
Kai told his sister over the phone, trying to sound casual as he crossed the empty campus.
I don't even go there that often, Yumi. How the hell did he know?
Go to the police, Kai. This isn't normal.
Oh, sure. There's a guy who happens to be in the same public places as me. If I were a cop, I'd be suspicious too.
But the shake in his voice gave away what the words were trying to hide. It wasn't just that the man was in the same places. It was that constant feeling of being studied, analyzed, like some kind of experiment. He felt a chill down his spine every time he woke up in the middle of the night, convinced someone had been standing right outside his apartment door. Kai, you're scaring me, his sister whispered on the other end of the line.
I'm scaring myself.
He muttered, more to the emptiness around him than to her, glancing over his shoulder for the 10th time in 5 minutes.
Chapter 3: The Chase.
On Thursday night, Kai made a desperate decision. If that man wanted to follow him so badly, then fine, let him. But this time, Kai was going to find out who the hell the cafe and library stalker really was. He left the library later than usual, when the campus was almost completely deserted. He walked slowly on purpose, each step almost daring. And there he was, that familiar silhouette, always lurking in the shadows. Always careful, like he was part of the night itself. Kai turned a corner, heart pounding in his throat, and then he ran. He wasn't exactly known for being athletic. The last time he'd run like this was when the microwave in his apartment caught fire. But adrenaline pushed him forward like he was in some action movie scene. Behind him, footsteps. Steady, precise. Not rushed, and that terrified him even more. It was like being hunted by someone who knew they'd catch up. He turned down a hallway and ducked behind a building, gasping for air, his heart pounding so loud it felt like a siren. With trembling hands, he pulled his phone from his pocket, ready to call the police. That's when a hand landed on his shoulder. "Ah! Oh my!" Kai screamed. "Easy," said a deep voice, absurdly calm, almost gentle. "I'm not going to hurt you." He turned around, finally face to face with the man who'd been circling his life for months, and every single word died in his throat.
Chapter 4: The Revealing Confrontation.
The man was impressive, but not in the terrifying way Kai had expected. Impressive as in, how does someone like that even exist, let alone skulk around in the shadows? Tall, probably in his early 30s, defined muscles under a black t-shirt that honestly looked illegally tight, dark hair slightly tousled from the chase, and his eyes, when he finally took off the sunglasses, were stormy gray, intense, analytical, like he was seeing way more than he should.
Who are you?
Kai whispered, still pressed against the wall like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "My name's Andrew," the man said, and there was something almost awkward in his posture, like he was the one in trouble. "And before you call the police, I need to explain something."
"You're a stalker."
It wasn't a question. Andrew ran a hand through his hair, a quick, almost human gesture. "Technically, I'm a bodyguard." Kai blinked, convinced he'd misheard.
"A what?"
"Bodyguard. Personal security. I was hired by your father 3 months ago to protect you. And before you completely freak out, he had a pretty good reason."
"My father?"
Kai's voice jumped at least an octave.
My father who forgets my birthday and texts me at Christmas with my name spelled wrong?
Andrew sighed, not out of impatience, but like he'd been expecting that kind of response. He's received some threats tied to his business, nothing confirmed yet, but serious enough for him to want you protected. He requested total discretion. You weren't supposed to know.
Discretion? Kai let out a short, borderline hysterical laugh. Dude, I spent 3 months thinking I had a psycho stalker. 3 months having nightmares, watching my back, thinking I was going to get kidnapped or worse.
I know. Andrew lifted his hands in a calming gesture. It wasn't the ideal approach, but those were the orders. Keep distance, be discreet, don't interfere with your routine.
Kai laughed again, but there was no humor in it. Discreet? You showed up everywhere I went. I have pictures of you on my phone. I was considering transferring schools.
For a second, something like a genuine smile flickered across Andrew's face. You took pictures of me?
Of course I did. I thought I was going to need evidence for the police when you finally decided to kill me.
This time, Andrew definitely smiled, and the effect was devastating. The kind of smile that should come with a warning label. Kai felt something twist in his stomach. It wasn't fear, or at least not just fear.
Chapter 5: Verifying the Truth. This isn't funny at all.
Kai crossed his arms, shooting Andrew a fierce look.
You turned my life into hell.
That wasn't my intention, Andrew said, and for the first time, his voice sounded genuinely sorry. I was just doing my job.
What job exactly? Traumatizing college students?
Personal security, Andrew replied, more serious now. Ex-military. Your safety is my priority. Kai studied him for a moment. Now that he knew the truth, he could see the details he'd missed before. The impeccable posture,
The way Andrew constantly scanned the room with his eyes, even during their conversation. The way he always positioned himself between Kai and any possible threat. "Prove it," Kai said suddenly, with the determination of someone who wasn't falling for any more stories. "How?" Andrew raised an eyebrow.
Prove you're not just a stalker with a really well-rehearsed story. I've seen this episode in murder mystery shows.
Without arguing, Andrew pulled his phone out of his pocket and dialed a number. Put it on speaker.
Daddy?
The familiar voice came through the phone like a punch to the gut. Kai went pale. "Kai? Why are you calling from Andrew's number? Did something happen?" Kai slowly turned to face Andrew, eyes wide in absolute shock.
Dad?
He said, dry and incredulous.
You really hired a bodyguard from me?
The silence on the other end lasted too long. Long enough for Kai to feel the embarrassment building like a storm cloud. "Oh," his dad finally said, in that classic adult voice caught with their hand in the cookie jar. "You've found out."
Chapter 6. Revelations and New Rules.
20 minutes later, Kai was still trying to process everything as he walked beside Andrew toward the dorm. The conversation with his dad had been tense, revealing, and frankly absurd. Real threats, an unstable ex-partner, messy contracts, suspicions of schemes, and dangerous connections. Nothing confirmed, but enough to hire a private security firm and keep it a secret from him for 3 months.
So,
Kai finally broke the heavy silence.
how does this work now that I know? Are you gonna be my full-time bodyguard? Sleep at the foot of my bed? Follow me to the bathroom?
The situation's changed. Andrew answered, his eyes calmly scanning the surroundings with the alertness of someone always on duty. Ideally, you'd never have found out. But now that you have, I'll need to stay closer.
Closer how?
Kai stopped, staring at him. Andrew stopped too, turned to face him. Kai, I need you to understand one thing. My priority is keeping you safe. That means sometimes I'll make decisions you won't like. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to duck, you duck. No questions, no arguments. His tone was calm, but there was a firmness there that left no room for doubt. And the look? Kai couldn't look away. Those gray eyes, intense, serious. They seemed to see right through him.
I can accept that.
He finally said, voice lower than he meant to.
But in return, I want total honesty. No secrets. No treating me like some spoiled kid.
Andrew studied him for a long moment. The tension between them was silent, dense, almost tangible.
Deal. Chapter 7. Closer and Closer. 1 week later.
The way they both handled the situation, protector and protected, took a few days to settle in. Andrew now openly accompanied Kai to classes, introducing himself as personal security only when necessary. Some classmates were impressed. Others asked questions Kai gladly ignored. What annoyed him, in an irritating and surprising way, was how untouchable Andrew seemed. Always in professional mode, polite, efficient, perfectly polished, as if that intense conversation on the way to the dorm had never happened. One Tuesday, after class, Kai found Andrew standing near the classroom door, impeccable military posture, hands behind his back, like he was expecting a threat to jump out of the water fountain.
You can relax, you know,
Kai said, stopping beside him.
No one's going to kidnap me in the middle of class.
You never know, Andrew replied automatically, his eyes already scanning the hallway.
Andrew? Look at me.
He hesitated before meeting Kai's eyes. And for a moment, What Kai saw there was more than just professionalism.
Are you okay? Since everything came out, you've been different.
I'm doing my job, Andrew said, almost like a shield.
That's not what I asked.
Andrew looked away, but not before Kai caught a trace of something. Tiredness? Fear? Desire?
It's complicated, Andrew admitted in a low voice.
Why? Andrew seemed to fight a silent battle. For a moment, Kai thought he was just going to turn around and walk away. Because it's harder to keep professional distance when you're not just an anonymous responsibility anymore.
Kai's heart skipped an uncomfortably noticeable beat. So, what am I then?
Andrew looked at him, and the answer came softer than Kai expected. Someone I like protecting. A little more than I should.
Chapter 8. Dangerously Close. 2 weeks later.
Andrew's apartment was exactly what Kai had imagined. Minimalist, functional, with straight, cold furniture, just like its owner. No pictures on the walls, no personal touches in sight. Just silence and tension. They had just returned from a situation on campus, a suspicious man taking photos, who in the end turned out to be just a clueless journalism student. But the scare had felt real. Real enough for Andrew to decide that Kai shouldn't go back to his dorm that night. Want anything? Water? Coffee? Andrew asked from behind the kitchen counter, but Kai could see the tension hanging on his shoulders like badly fitted armor.
Can you stop?
Kai said, sinking into the wide black leather couch. Stop what?
Acting like a robot. You're tense, I'm tense. Pretending everything's normal is just making it worse.
Andrew froze in the middle of the room, like he wasn't sure if he should switch back to soldier mode or allow himself to feel anything at all. I'm not very good at this.
At what?
At people caring about me. The confession came out low, almost swallowed. Kai stood up slowly, crossing the space between them. You saved my life today,
He said, never taking his eyes off him. Even if it was a false alarm, you were ready for anything. It's normal to be shaken afterward.
Andrew looked at him. Not just looked, stared, like he was trying to memorize every detail. Like he already knew he shouldn't. It's not supposed to be like this, he murmured.
Like what?
It's not supposed to matter this much. His voice was tight, almost restrained. You were supposed to be just another assignment. Kai stepped closer, didn't touch him. Instead, he rose slightly onto the balls of his feet, close enough that their breaths mingled.
But I'm not. Am I?
Andrew didn't answer right away. The air felt thick, heavy, like any movement would shatter the balance between them. No, he said finally, hoarse. You're not.
Chapter 9. The First Real Touch. Kai lifted his hand slowly, almost reverently, giving Andrew all the time in the world to pull away if he wanted to. But when his fingers touched the taller man's face, Andrew closed his eyes and exhaled. Not in frustration, but like someone finally allowing himself to give in to something he'd been holding back for weeks.
Kai,
Tell me you don't want this.
Kai whispered, closing the distance between them just a little more.
Tell me it's just the job, that I'm just a responsibility, and I'll stop.
Andrew opened his eyes, and what Kai saw in them made him shiver. I can't say that.
Why not?
Because it would be a lie. Andrew's hand came up, covering Kai's over his cheek, warm and steady. I've been thinking about you for weeks in ways that have nothing to do with protection.
What kind of ways?
Ways that make me want to find out how you smile when you're truly happy, not just being polite. Ways that make me want to know your favorite movie, your favorite color, how you look in the morning with your hair all messed up. Kai felt his heart pounding so hard, it felt like it was beating in the space between them.
Andrew.
Ways that make me want to kiss you every time you frown while reading something complicated, or when you bite your pen cap trying to solve a problem.
You notice all that?
I notice everything about you, Andrew confessed, his voice thick with restrained emotion. And that's a problem.
Why?
Because when someone matters too much, you lose your clarity. You hesitate. And in my job, hesitation can be fatal. There was something in his eyes now, something old and quiet and painful. Something Kai instinctively knew he wasn't allowed to reach for yet.
And what if I say you're worth the risk?
Andrew swallowed hard, his jaw tensed. Then I'd say, you don't understand what you're risking. Or maybe, Kai said, leaning in until their faces were barely apart.
Maybe you don't understand what you're gaining.
Chapter 10: The Kiss and Its Consequences.
It was Kai who closed the final inches between them, but it was Andrew who took control, with a hunger that had been tightly restrained for far too long. The kiss didn't start soft. It started urgent, tongues clashing, breaths uneven, hands searching for something solid to hold on to. Kai felt his back hit the wall, but barely registered it. Andrew was there, real, pressing against him with a heat that made every nerve in Kai's body come alive. Andrew kissed him like he was trying to memorize every detail of his mouth, like he expected this might be his only chance. One hand firm on Kai's waist, the other rising slowly to his face, as if he was finally allowing himself to touch something too precious to have dared before. But then, the rhythm changed. Urgency gave way to something deeper, more intimate. Andrew's lips softened now, exploring with intention, like he wasn't just tasting Kai's body, but sensing his surrender, his choice to be there. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Andrew's eyes were still closed, as if the outside world didn't deserve to be seen just yet. "This changes everything," he murmured, his voice rough against Kai's lips. "You know that, right?"
I know. Kai still had his fingers gripped in Andrew's shirt, knuckles white. Andrew opened his eyes slowly, and they held a storm of conflict and surrender.
"It won't be simple. My job, your father, real threats. This isn't some fairy tale."
I'm not asking for a fairy tale, Kai replied, placing his hand over Andrew's chest, feeling the racing heart beneath. I just want no lies, no distance disguised as professionalism.
"You'll have to trust me completely. When I say it's dangerous, it's dangerous. When I tell you to run, you run."
Trust has to go both ways, Andrew. His eyes darkened slightly, and Kai could see it. The moment the decision landed inside him, quiet, final.
"Then let's do this the right way. Agreed?"
Kai smiled and leaned his forehead against Andrew's. Agreed.
"And you'll have to accept that sometimes I'll have to put your safety above everything, even my own feelings."
Kai studied his face, so close, so unguarded. There was determination there, yes, but also fear, the kind that came from having something, someone you couldn't afford to lose. "Then you have to understand," Kai said gently but firmly, "that we now have something worth protecting."
"We do?"
Andrew replied.
Instinctive. Certain.
Kai's smile widened, his eyes never leaving Andrew's. "So, you really think I'm worth the risk?"
Andrew smiled. Not the usual polite one, but something real. Genuine. Disarming. Worth it? Now, you're more than just a risk. He leaned in again. Voice low, final. You're my choice. And then his lips found Kai's once more. Slower this time. Deliberate. Full of the weight and warmth of a new beginning.
Chapter 11. A New Dynamic. 3 weeks later.
The new dynamic between them settled in quietly, but it was impossible to ignore. Andrew still kept his professional posture during the day, but there were cracks in the armor. Tiny fractures where intimacy slipped through. A lingering touch when helping Kai out of the car. A glance that lingered longer than it should when he thought no one was watching. The instinctive way his eyes searched for Kai whenever he entered a room, like seeing him was a form of breathing. Kai, in turn, had started to notice what made Andrew relax and began to provoke those moments gently. A hot cup of coffee left without a word. A soft touch to his tense shoulders after a rough day. A quiet smile when Andrew averted his gaze, as if trying to shield himself from something that already consumed him completely.
On a Thursday night, when Kai once again found Andrew waiting in the car outside his dorm, the scene had already become part of their routine. But Kai had decided to break that cycle. "You know you don't have to stay out here every night,"
he said, leaning into the open car door.
"I could give you a key to my apartment."
Andrew looked up, cautious. That would be inappropriate. Kai crossed his arms, voice steady but low.
"Why is it inappropriate for two adults to share a space?"
Andrew held his gaze, and the silence between them thickened, charged. "You know why."
"No, I want you to tell me."
Andrew ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Kai already knew well, a sign he was wrestling with something far deeper than protocol. "Because if I stay there, I won't manage to stay on the couch all night." Kai's body responded to those words, but he didn't step back.
"Who said I want you to stay on the couch?"
Andrew fell silent. The air around them felt like it was holding its breath.
Kai.
"Andrew,"
he interrupted, his voice closer now.
"We fake it all day, but at night you look at me differently, and I feel it. I feel everything you try to hide. So why are we pretending that sleeping apart is safer than being honest about what we feel?"
Andrew looked torn between the impulse to pull him close and the duty to step away. "Because if I cross that line, there's no going back. And if something happens to me, if I failed to protect you because I was distracted." Kai moved closer, pressing his body against his firm chest, feeling Andrew's arm slide around his waist in a slow, warm embrace.
"And what if you fail because you're exhausted from pretending you feel nothing? What if what's weakening you isn't desire, it's guilt? Guilt for wanting someone, for wanting me."
Andrew closed his eyes, like the words had hit something too vulnerable to speak. "Are you sure?" He whispered, his voice rough, breaking.
"I'm sure I want to wake up next to you. I'm sure I trust you, and I'm sure that when you stop fighting what you feel, you don't get weaker, you get stronger."
Andrew opened his eyes slowly, and the way he looked at Kai made the young man's stomach turn inside out. It was the look of someone standing at the edge of a decision that would change everything. Kai stepped back and held out the key to him. Andrew stared at it for a moment, then took it. Without a word, without protest. But that night, he didn't return to the car.
Chapter 12. Growing Intimacy.
Ty's apartment was small, but Andrew moved through it like he already knew every corner. It was strange and comforting all at once. He adjusted the curtains, checked the locks, positioned himself in a spot where he could have a clear line of sight to both the door and the window. Protection was woven into every move, but there was something domestic about it too, something that felt like belonging.
Kai watched him from across the kitchen counter, feeling that presence fill the space in a way no furniture or decoration ever could.
"Can I ask you something?" he said, voice low. Andrew settled onto the couch, one far too small for his tall frame, and yet he still managed to look completely at ease, the kind of ease that comes from being where you want to be.
Of course.
Why personal security? After the military, I mean. Andrew fell silent for a few moments, as if digging inside himself for the most honest version of the answer.
I lost someone important on a mission, more than just a work partner. It was someone I couldn't protect, even though I tried everything. So I decided that if I was going to keep walking this path, I'd do it in a way where I had more control, where maybe I could prevent another loss.
Kai felt the weight of those words and the care with which they were chosen. "I'm sorry," he said softly, folding his arms as if trying to contain what he felt. Andrew looked at him, and in his eyes was the color of memories too heavy to forget.
It was a long time ago, he said, but that's why I take this job so seriously, why I stay on edge when I start caring too much.
"And do you care too much about me?" Kai asked, without hesitation. Andrew didn't respond right away. Instead, he looked down at his hands, clenched on his knees, as if he were holding them back from reaching for something, or someone.
Far more than would ever be safe for either of us.
Kai stepped closer, slowly. Bare feet on the cold floor, the silence between them filled with a tension that no longer felt uncomfortable, only inevitable. "Come," he said, holding out a hand. "The bed's big enough for two. And before you start with the objections, I'm not suggesting anything more than sharing the space. I just don't want you spending another night uncomfortable on the couch, or far from me." Andrew looked at the outstretched hand like it was a choice too dangerous to be simple. But he touched it, and held it.
Just sleep?
Kai smiled, their fingers now intertwined. "Just sleep," he confirmed. But his eyes said something else, something that made the air between them hum. "For now."
Kai.
Andrew gave a soft smile, the kind that meant surrender. He already knew the "for now" wouldn't last long. And maybe it wouldn't last on either side.